the north and firing into a ship accused of trying to get around the blockade of Iranian ports. Iran retaliated by attacking U.S. allies in the region. It's another sign that a temporary ceasefire that was in place has collapsed. So the next question is, where do we go from here? Retired Naval Intelligence Commander Dr. Paul Chabot with us again tonight via Zoom. He also served as White House senior advisor to Presidents Clinton and George W. Bush. All right, Doctor, do we have a ceasefire or not?
No, there's no ceasefire. In fact, we are now into day 6 of significant military operations in Iran. Obviously, Iran is responding, as you have said. Iran's attacked or tried to attack our bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. The U.S. has also moved operations of attacks into Iran beyond just the southern area of the country along the Strait of Hormuz. They now moved more north into central Iran as well, with additional threats of targeting bridges and more.
Have we taken out Iran's ability to develop a nuclear weapon?
No, I don't believe so. And the president a few days ago mentioned something called Pickaxe Mountain. You may hear more of that. The president may mention it tonight. Pickaxe Mountain is in central Iran. It was started development about 2020. It's about 330 feet, basically below a mountain. We really don't have the military capability to fully neutralize that facility. And as of right now, it's a standing place that's en route to potentially produce nuclear weapons. And we also know that Iran has the ability to launch significant ballistic missiles well beyond regions that we thought were possible based on what they've already targeted since March.
So why don't we go and try to get that place in Iran?
Well, there's that and many, and as we know historically, wars cannot be won just through the air, and I think we're in the very initial phases of this. We're still seeing a lot of pushback here domestically. The defense bill that was up for vote yesterday in the Senate was basically pushed back. The president's asking for a 44% increase. You've also got to look at our stockpiles. We use a lot of missiles right now. We have Patriots that do the defense and Tomahawks that do the offense. We've already used 1,000 Tomahawks in the last 4 months. We make about 200 a year. And at the same time, we've got China, Russia, North Korea watching. We've got to be prepared on all sides of the globe, not only focused on the Middle East. And that's what our military is looking at right now as well.
Doctor, other than Israel, does the United States have an ally that supports what we are doing there?
Well, look, the Middle East, clearly, we have our allies. We have bases there. Bahrain, Kuwait, staunchly behind us. If we remember 1992, 1993 with Saddam Hussein invading. We have a lot of goodwill throughout that region. We also know that nations like Saudi Arabia and others are looking at alternatives to have oil transported. Instead of needing to go through the Strait of Hormuz, they're looking at building additional pipelines, which would bypass that. Iran is clearly aware of that, and Iran's also threatened to potentially shut down a second strait, which is in the Red Sea. And all they have to do is activate one of their 4 proxies, the Houthis, very active, which could create more economic turmoil. So yes, we do have allies out there, but right now the U.S. is 100% shouldering the burden of this war. Israel right now is on the sidelines, but we know they're chomping at the bits to get right back in there as well.
Is that a problem? I mean, shouldn't we demand that our allies come in and help us out here? Especially, correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor, but the United States doesn't get a lot of benefit, at least from ships that pass through the Strait of Hormuz, right?
Well, so when you look at if this all comes back to economics, the global oil market, this is not traded. For example, the U.S., we make most of our own oil. For many would say we don't need oil from the Middle East or from Russia or any other place. The problem is that oil is traded on the international market. So whatever happens in any corner of the world impacts our oil prices here at home. Americans are feeling this significantly with the increase of gas prices. However, I think it's fair to say that, yes, and President Trump has been right when he talks about NATO, more countries sharing the burden and the cost, as well as our allies in the Middle East. Right now, they are sharing airspace and they are sharing physical space for the United States to have bases.
Doctor, the time we have left, I'm just curious. You worked for two other presidents, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton. There have been various wars or conflicts during those presidents when you were around. Compare those two to President Trump as far as how active were those presidents in the day-to-day operations compared to what President Trump seems to be pretty active in the day-to-day operations of this conflict?
He is really. Trump is the spokesperson in many ways for the Department of War. In the olden days, which wasn't too long ago, you would have press conferences coming out of the Pentagon giving daily updates. I remember that as a kid in high school watching Storm and Norman giving updates on what we were doing with Kuwait and Iraq at that time. We've gotten away from that. All intel in many ways comes out from what our president says, not only in media, but social media as well. He is driving the narrative and the headlines.
Is that a good thing?
Personally, no. I would rather see our spokespersons from the Pentagon fielding and taking questions. I know our president likes to say a lot, but I do feel at times he shows our cards to the adversary. But there's other times when he may be calling the bluff or giving a head shake, if you will, to the opposition. I think right now, Iran and others simply don't know what the United States is always going to do, which causes conflict and confusion. But from an intel perspective, I would like to keep a wraps on a lot of what our potential plans would be so we don't allow our adversaries to prepare for that.
Dr. Paul Chabot, always good talking to you. Great insight. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you.
All right, let's